Welcome back to the channel, folks, on one which I know will cause a great deal of interest for those that have been egregiously treated by the police. This is the second video in respect of actions against the police, and in this part 2 civil claims video we will examine the mechanics of making a civil claim and taking actions against the police. In part 3, we examined how to make an effective police conduct complaint, and we looked at detail of the mechanics of how to do that. But both are not necessarily the same thing. Before we discuss the mechanics of a civil claim in respect of actions against the police, I draw to your attention the following disclaimer. Nothing in this video constitutes legal advice. I hold no qualifications in law to give legal advice. The views and opinions in this video are that of an interpretation of law, and the statutory instruments are constantly reviewed and changed, and opinions given on the date of the video correct. Legal advice should always be sought from a qualified person, and the purpose of this content is to support a healthy discussion around the topic. So, let us begin logically by distinguishing what a civil claim is, and looking at how it differs from a complaint on police conduct. Civil action against the police are claims for compensation made through the country's judicial system. The use of tort law, a specialist area of law, a tort being a civil wrong, allows victims who have been subject to the abuse of police powers to sue the police. Civil actions against the police are often very different from complaints on conducts against the police, where the aim is for the police to effectively conduct internal investigations on discipline through the Professional Standards Department. So the two things are, in fact, distinctly different, although they may be overlap. I am including the following slides by way of revision from Part 3 on police conduct complaints, if only to dispel for some auditors that the IOPC will be interested in your complaint. The bad news is they will not. The IOPC in most cases do not investigate individual complaints. They are very much restricted to DSIs, which is death or serious injuries, where there is an automatic requirement to refer by the police, or in the alternative if they meet conditional criteria. You should therefore note that the IOPC will likely send your complaint back to the appropriate authority, which is the police force in question, to investigate their own shortcomings, usually through a PSD or Professional Standards Department. So guys, having cleared that up, let's get back to where we need to be, the mechanics of a civil claim. In my opinion, the start point of any good case is to ensure that the evidence is obtained effectively and efficiently. Make a recording of the interaction wherever possible. Insist on your entitlement for a copy of the search, or if it's in an arrest, your custody record. Obtain context of any witnesses willing to give statements, and ensure you have a copy of the incident log that prompted the action, and clarify the origin of concern. Retrieve information promptly via a subject access request, including all body-worn videos, FOIA footage or external video footage, and obtain a copy of the custody record and property returns if so detained in custody by arrest. Your first challenge as a claimant will be to find a law firm specialising in actions against the police, in particular for a no-win, no-fee, which is otherwise known as a CFA or conditional fee arrangement. Claims at lower threshold are often settled out of court for a number of reasons, principally the cost of going to court and also reputational damage for the force in question, but there is no guarantee that a claim will not go to full contention within a court. The next step from a potential firm specialising in actions against the police will be a callback from a paralegal who will take you through a structured telephone conversation in order to assess the prospects of success and identify the heads of claim. You may be asked to upload some video footage using video link, or in the alternative, provide all of the evidence on a USB stick to support your claim. The heads of claim, or otherwise known as categories of loss, are specific to the individual circumstances of each case, so they can vary from unlawful arrest / unlawful detention, malicious prosecution, police negligence, or excessive use of force. The next contact in the process is likely from the law firm indicating the prospect of success, and that will be given in one of three ways. Either that capacity has been met, i.e. that they have not enough legals to engage your case, no reasonable prospects of success, or they may advise to come back after the IOPC or PSD complaint has been investigated. I make two key comments. Number one, that the prospect of success as given by one firm as an opinion may differ to that of another, and you are frequently advised to seek another opinion. Secondly, there can potentially, despite due diligence, be a tendency to cherry pick only the most lucrative or successful complaints. Take it as read that you may have to contact more than one actions against the police specialist before you find success. Turning now to the position of tort law and the assumed position of remedy, which is to put the claimant in a pre-loss position. This can occur in a number of ways, but the actions against the police team will be clearly focusing on any damages as a result of financial compensation and any recovery of their legal losses by way of claim. Every head of claim will have differing criteria and relevant precedent associated with it in respect of satisfying the case law required in tort law. The circumstance of every case differs. The following slides are put together merely to illustrate the variation on heads of claim and the required tests necessary to satisfy tort. Each head of claim requires specific test criteria to be met, and we simply skim through a few heads of claim such as malicious prosecution, unlawful use of force and unlawful detention. These slides are simply to illustrate the complexity and variability within each head of claim, and probably in their own right represent 3 volumes of law. It is within this area that your actions against the police specialist would excel in. I am, for the benefit of auditors, going to round this video off by perhaps looking at the most probable cause of civil actions against the police, namely unlawful detention. There is no doubt, looking at many of the professional audits from Auditing Britain, that police officers go out of their way to abuse their power and authority. That power and authority being misused to criminalise, stigmatise and delay an auditor undertaking his lawful right in the public domain. So we're going to look at Section 1 of PACE in respect of unlawful detention and search, and specifically in relation to Code A of PACE. Auditors have become increasingly savvy in understanding the PACE 1 detainments and the obligation given by a police officer to conform to the PACE Code A code, namely using the little mnemonic known as Go Wisely. This is just a personal view. Police officers are taught to use the algorithm Go Wisely, which enables them to comply to the requirements of Code A PACE. They are taught from the beginning to the end. It's my view from an auditor's perspective that the auditor should always approach the questions which provides the body of evidence often necessary in contention by working backwards from the Y to the G, As an auditor, you will not go too far wrong if you can apply this statement at the location slowly and calmly, committing the officer to his course of action. There is no doubt that you will be distracted by multiple officers around you, but in the first instance, identify the detaining officer and restrict the conversation to him and him alone, committing him to his action. Just a footnote on obtaining a copy of the entitlement to detention and search. It is for the officer to justify his action at the time of detention and search, not to be given license to review body-worn video and subsequently introduce disparity to the event. Remember, in any ensuing civil claim, a police officer must justify the grounds for his action and justify his reason and necessity for the detention and search. Just a word of caution to auditors who may publish on social media who are planning a civil action against the police, and an awareness of what is required in terms of strict liability under the Contempt of Court Act 1981. As discussed in our Freedom of the Press video, the Contempt of Court Act 1981 contains a strict liability on publishing material which may jeopardise any judicial proceedings. The relevant periods of restraint are that given within the meaning of Schedule 1 of the Act. Okay guys, that brings us to the end of our short video on how to make a civil claim and the mechanics of it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you can, please like, share and subscribe the channel to help provide resources to people like yourself. I hope you have found both videos, how to make the civil claim and how to make an effective complaint on police conduct, useful, and that you realise how disjointed it is to achieve natural justice in regard to an action against the police. I hope you'll join me in part 1 of the series. We will take a global overview looking at the uneven landscape of police conduct, where we will compare and contrast on each leg of the journey how biased the system is against the claimant.